What are the 3 exercises that someone can do before going on the stage that will make them comfortable about themselves?
I would say breathing exercises for sure calm you. So usually, for example, like you take a breath through your nose for like a count of 4. So like you hold it in for a count of 4. And then you exhale through your mouth for a count of 4. Right. Some articulation exercises like the ones you and I did earlier for fun, just to make sure the mouth is working properly and all the letters are being heard. The third one, I think, which really helps, is knowing your introduction and conclusion. But particularly for really nervous speakers, I would say memorize your intro. Whereas usually we'd say don't be over-prepared, don't memorize. But I'd say memorize your intro. That gives you some measure of confidence when you're going to be the most nervous when you first get out and see that audience in front of you.
As a radio presenter, the one thing that I've always felt was very difficult is how to finish, how to end a conversation. You know, that's also an art.
Yes.
So how do you learn that? How do you do that?
Well, practice. Again, the more you practice, the better you become at something. I mean, there's no magic to it. The more you drive, the better driver you are. The more you cook, the better chef you are.
Not everyone would agree to be that they are judgmental. Are you?
Of course. I mean, I think we're all judgmental. And, I was a professor for many years. So you try to suss out your students and figure out what they're thinking or how they're behaving. And I'm a very sociable person. So, I rely a lot on social interaction. So, of course, within that, there is judgment. And you try not to be harsh, but we all get a specific first impression. And I think the challenge is to sometimes force yourself to change that when you realize you were wrong,
So basically, there's nothing like being non-judgmental. It's like being apolitical. That's what you're saying.
I think so, yeah. I think we're all judgmental in our ways, but I think, it's good to not always voice our opinion and not to be quick to voice our opinion because often we realize we were wrong, we made the wrong judgment,
When I walked into the room, what did you make out of it?
Well, you were clearly very, very confident. This was your space, you were comfortable here. You were playing the host. You were welcoming me and making me feel comfortable. You were also putting me at ease with your humor. And you're clearly naturally funny and comedic. And you have a great voice. And you're comfortable, with your looks, the way you're dressed. It's relaxed. It's nothing that's too tight, that's too conservative, let's say. So, yeah, these are the impressions that I made. Relaxed, comfortable, confident. You don't need my public speaking classes. Let's put it that way.
Very sweet of you. This is the mic drop moment for me. This is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Nobody has praised me so much in such a long time.
Oh, okay. Well, happy to have helped.
Sumaya, let's start from the raw basics. What actually goes on when it's time to speak up?
I always say it's good to be a bit prepared because if you are totally unprepared, that might throw you off and that might really get your confidence. So you want to be a bit prepared. And funnily enough, you don't want to be over-prepared because if you memorize everything, it becomes like a performance. And that's not what you want when you're public speaking. You're not being an actor. You're being a public speaker. And people will stop to think about their words. They might stumble upon something. We're human. We're not robots yet. So, it's fine to stop to find the right word or whatever. So you don't want to be over-prepared because if it's a performance, then it's a one-way street. And one element of good public speaking is keeping it a conversation, making the audience feel like they are part of this and involving them in some way with questions, with reactions, with that sort of thing.
What do you think is more troublesome, being underprepared or overprepared?
I would think underprepared.
Okay.
Because when you're overprepared, so to speak, like you really know your subject well, you've read about it and, you're well versed in it. If something happens that might throw you off, you get a question you're not prepared for, or someone asks you something unusual, something goes wrong technically, at least that part of it is ready. But if you're underprepared, I think you're less...
You're blank.
Yes, you're blindsided and then you're not ready to deal with emergencies.
sometimes, when I am over prepared, or, some of the clients want me to over prepare, that becomes a bigger problem for me, because I am thinking of the next line to say rather than, enjoying the moment per se.
Absolutely. And you want to be a bit spontaneous about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd say there's a difference between when you're acting and when you're doing public speaking. So I do a lot of acting in the community, which I really enjoy. I was part of this Short and Sweet festival at the Junction Theatre, and something went wrong. Like the backstage crew left one thing not in the right place.
Okay.
I came up there and I saw it. And it was a type of play where there are quickly lines between me and my other co-actor all the time. Luckily, we had rehearsed enough. I knew my lines well enough that in the moment I decided, okay, I'm going to go put this over there and then continue. But afterwards, I went to her and I said, did I say all my lines? Did I forget something? Because in the moment, I'm thinking and I'm also delivering the lines. But because we had rehearsed well enough, and I would say when you're acting, you need to be a bit over-prepared so that if something happens, it doesn't completely throw you off. But in public speaking, you don't want to be over-prepared.
What is the difference between public speaking and acting?
Good question. Acting, because you feel responsible that if you mess up your line, you might mess up the other people's lines as well. So if and the trick is, if you mess up the middle of your line, fine, as long as you arrive at the cue that the other actor needs.
True.
So I think the responsibility is greater when you're with others on stage. Also, like if some great playwright wrote that play, you're not supposed to be improvising and putting your own words in there. Whereas if you're public speaking, you're just representing yourself. So there's less of a responsibility there.
Improv, very interesting that you've mentioned this, because improv can be used in public speaking and in acting as well. So how do you incorporate improv in both these things?
I think the great thing about improv is it forces you to think on your feet. It forces you to be very quick. Like it's reactive. You have to react. Like someone threw you a ball and you immediately, without thinking, just, push it back. So I think that's the good thing with improv, is gets you to think quicker, to come up with solutions when you need them. So, and I've done some improv classes and they're very helpful and they force you to be very creative and to think outside the box and to just come up with anything.
But what are the pillars of public speaking for you as a trainer, as someone who teaches public speaking?
Okay, so usually I get my participants to guess this, but now I'm going to have to divulge the secret. So there are 3 aspects of public speaking: content, voice, and body language.
In that order?
No. So the question is, which of them do you think is the most important one?
Oh, wow, that's a difficult question. What
Yes.
did you say once again? Let me guess.
So there's content, there's voice, and there's body language.
I think body language first, content second, and voice third.
Okay, so you're almost right. Body language is the strongest with 55%.
Wow.
Then it's voice, and then it's content with only 6 or 8%.
Oh, really?
Can you imagine? So I always tell my, participants, imagine the amount of time we take to prepare our content. And I'm not saying it's not important, and you pick every word carefully, and should I say this way or that way, and you construct your sentence, etc. But then if your voice isn't very good, but even worse, if your body language isn't being used, the way you should, effectively, then no one's listening to you.
True.
So that's why body language is very important. And I have to admit, because maybe I'm an actress on the side, I enjoy doing the body language bit more than anything else.
Wow, that's amazing. I would always think that content is the king.
That's
they
what
also
you'd
say
think.
that, right?
That's what you'd think. And it's a bit, scary to think.
Yeah.
But basically, if you don't grab a person's attention and you're not able to retain it, doesn't matter what you're saying.
That also is true.
Hence the importance of body language to keep them listening. And I tell you, I was a professor for many years, and I had some classes like after lunch. We all know what happens after lunch. People are tired. I would have students literally falling asleep. And I took that very personally. And I was very insulted.
Wow.
I'm like, you cannot fall asleep in my class. So I really had to be quite the entertainer and quite the performer to keep their attention so that they can hear the content I'm delivering to them.
That made you a better teacher, didn't it?
I think so, absolutely. I think the secret to good teaching, you have to be quite the performer.
All right.
Really, to retain their attention and to read the room. Another very important aspect that people don't think about sometimes, you have to be able to read the room, to see who's paying attention, who
Absolutely.
isn't, who's thinking about lunch, who's already half asleep, and to be able to think, okay, let me change tack now. I've lost them for a bit. Let me change the subject. Let me ask a question. Let me do something to get the attention back.
And also, just to add on to this, how is the group as a whole, basically?
Yes.
You need to learn that, read that also. How's the group as a whole? Because sometimes, no matter what you do, the group is not interested. Maybe they are the set of people who don't care about the content that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So you need to read the room also.
Absolutely.
As a whole.
And there's, you're going to have to interrupt me because I'm a talker. So there's an energy in the room which you can feel.
True.
And it's contagious as well. So we see that a lot in the theater, where there's always a bit of a difference between first night or second night or third night, depending on the audience. So if you have a lot of audience members who are very happy to laugh out loud, there's more laughter throughout the auditorium because they're hearing the laughter. If it's a quieter audience, it affects everybody else.
Absolutely.
And obviously we love the louder audience because it gives us that feedback and reassurance that, they like what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Unless they're laughing
Spot
at the
on.
wrong spot. And then that's a whole different story.
Sometimes even that is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. But it throws you off like, whoops, that wasn't supposed to be funny.
So what is your advice for people who not only require a boost in confidence, but to people who are also a little too overconfident?
People who lack confidence, I always, remind my participants that everyone has something to say, something important. We're all good at something. So I think to remind yourself that there is value in what you are sharing. Passion is very important. When you are passionate about what you are talking about, it almost takes over everything else. So even if you don't have the best body language, the best voice tone or whatever, but if you are passionate, that passion comes through and people connect with you. So, not like believe in yourself and all of that. Now, if you're overconfident, that's a tricky one. And that is where I would say maybe remember it's a conversation. It's not all about yourself. Involve the audience. Be interested in what the audience have to say. You're not supposed to be just the only star here. It's not a monologue. Yes, you're doing the bulk of the public speaking, but the more that it's a conversation, the more interesting it is for the audience, the more involved they feel.
What are the 3 exercises that someone can do before going on the stage that will make them comfortable about themselves?
I would say breathing exercises for sure calm you. So usually, for example, like you take a breath through your nose for like a count of 4. So like you hold it in for a count of 4. And then you exhale through your mouth for a count of 4. Right. Some articulation exercises like the ones you and I did earlier for fun, just to make sure the mouth is working properly and all the letters are being heard.
You can do a tongue twister, say,
yes,
for example.
Absolutely. These
she sells seashells on the seashore.
Exactly.
That's what you made me do.
Exactly. The third one, I think, which really helps, is knowing your introduction and conclusion.
Okay.
If you have these 2 bookends, you kind of know where you're starting, you know where you're heading. What happens in between can be fluid.
Some greats, in fact, avoid the mic while others seem to crave it. For example, I'll give you an example. I don't know whether you know Shah Rukh Khan or not.
Of course, who
Everyone
doesn't?
does, right?
Yeah.
Shah Rukh Khan, I think, is a great public speaker. He craves the mic. Once he takes it, he owns the stage. But there are some great actors who've never been good on the stage. I'm not going to name any of them.
Yeah.
But why is it so?
Well, I think it comes down to personality because a lot of actors are very much the introverts. Some of them have very timid personalities. So it's only when they're playing a role that different personality comes out. But in real life, they're very different. And then you see the real them when they're speaking not in a character's voice. And so if they're not very confident speakers in real life, or if they're more on the timid or the shy side, they don't like to be the center of attention. They don't want the lights on them. And so they shy away from that. Even if they might have fantastic insights and have a lot to say, they're just not as comfortable being the center of attention. But when they're playing a role, they're not being themselves.
Yeah.
So then it's easier to become that person.
Bringing it back to where we started, what can an everyday person do about it?
Well, I think one thing is, remembering that what's the worst case scenario? I mean, okay, so I don't do so well. What's going to happen? Like the world isn't going to end.
Yeah, true. True.
And I mean, no one wants to think that nobody is listening to them, but like at any given moment, not the whole audience is so focused on you. So don't take yourself too seriously. It's okay. And then again, if you make a mistake, that only proves that you're human, and that's fine. And in a way, if you make a mistake and you recover well and you keep going, you inspire others that it's all right. We all make mistakes. We all fumble. No one is perfect. No one's going to deliver everything perfectly.
All right. So now if someone wants to adjust how they present themselves, where do they begin? Where to start from?
By looking in the mirror. Honestly, you look in the mirror and you see yourself, and you self-criticize, like, what am I doing? Or perhaps you video yourself. And I know that sounds odd, but I often do that with my participants. I take their permission, of course, but we take a video of them talking and then I have them watch themselves alone, because often it's like embarrassing in the group, but sometimes we do it in the group, and they realize that things they do without noticing that they do, because we all act spontaneously. And you might have a certain thing you do with your hand all the time. Maybe you shake it around too much and you don't realize. Maybe you're always playing with your hair, and that becomes very annoying for the people watching you, because you're always playing with your hair, or
you look fidgety, basically.
You fidgety, or maybe you have this very closed off body position, which shows people that I'm not open to the audience. They always talk about be open, have open hands, show the audience that you're open to them. So noticing what you do. Some people, without realizing, are always covering their mouth. And first of all, you're blocking the sound. And then it's also projecting that image of you're not that confident. You're almost embarrassed about what you're going to say. So you should never really cover your mouth. Perhaps asking someone you're comfortable with, a family friend, a good friend, a family member, and saying, what do you see in me? What body language do you see that you think works or doesn't work?
Okay, so what are 3 quick body tweaks that show instant confidence?
Standing up straight. That's a very important one. Not being closed, so not folding your arms, keeping your shoulder position open to the audience or to the person that you are talking to. And not fidgeting. Like if you're walking confidently, calmly, slowly, not fidgeting.
All right. Okay. If I freeze or fidget, how do I take back control?
By internally giving yourself a bit of a breath, and remembering what you need to do, which is why I think it's great when you are doing any sort of public speaking. If, depending on the subject that you're giving, but if you can have some videos there, it gives yourself a break to gather your thoughts again, collect your thoughts and think, okay, where do I want to go next? Or the segment took too long, or shall I do this or that? Or let me take, a drink of water, etc. So where possible. If not, if you can ask questions to the audience, it takes the spotlight away from you. And then again, it gives you a minute to catch your breath and decide how you want to realign yourself and refix things. Maybe certain mantras that you repeat, things you say to yourself, you're doing fine, you're doing great, this is going well, look, this person is speaking to you. And again, that's something I often tell my participants. Not all the audience are good at giving visual cues, but that doesn't mean they're not listening.
True.
So if you feel you're lacking in confidence, find that one person who is looking at you attentively and shaking their head, and get that energy back and get that confidence back. And then remember that even if they're not, giving you these cues, perhaps they're still listening.
Well, personally, when I do it professionally, I think drinking water is a very good thing. You can take your time drinking it. Nobody's going to judge you doing that.
Yes.
You can take 30 seconds
Yes.
and you can take a deep breath and think of what you're going to do next.
Exactly. Like if someone gives you a question you're not sure about. Oh, well, actually, I'm just doing what you taught me to do. So I'm going to use that tip. Thank you.
Absolutely. Tell me this, Sumaya, is the fear of speaking really actually is the fear of rejection which comes from your past, maybe?
I'm sure part of it could be that. It's also a fear of making a mistake, of not having something important to say, which is something we touched upon a bit earlier, which is why you need a bit of that confidence, but also a bit of that it's okay to make a fool of yourself. And that's something I think I've gotten from acting, which is lovely because sometimes you have to play very ridiculous roles. So it's fine to be the fool sometimes. It's okay to make a mistake and just make fun of yourself and keep going. So not taking yourself too seriously.
Exactly what I was talking about when I was talking about my radio show, I fumble sometimes and I'm like, I crack a joke which doesn't land and I make fun of myself. Oh, that was a ridiculous joke.
Yeah.
Like, let's move on from it. So I think that might also help that.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's this flip side to this also. There are some very confident people, who are the loudest in the room, but they are sometimes not the strongest. And they are trying to make it up possibly by being loud.
Absolutely. And there are people who are nervous talkers. They keep talking because they worry they're going to, run out of things to say. So I guess they feel like as long as I have the conversation and I'm going with it, no one's going to ask me a question that I can't answer. And you feel like they're going on and they betray their lack of confidence through over talking.
Okay.
And I think when you're confident enough and comfortable enough in your own skin, you give others a chance to talk. And that's a nice trait. It's like being a good host. You're not supposed to talk all the time. I mean, like in a dinner party type situation. You're supposed to give others a chance to be part of it. So, you shouldn't hog the conversation, be the one who's always doing all the talking.
All right. There's this caveat when we talk about Gen Z, they get judged at their workplace. And when they don't speak up or rather take it to the extreme where their emotions flare up. So what do you want to say about that?
I'm a parent of a Gen Zer. And I imagine that their problem is that unfortunately, they grew up with so much social media around them that they worry that something is going to be there and is going to haunt them for the rest of their life, that someone can find it, that someone is recording, or that something they've written will come back. So I guess they worry about that something they might say might be taken against them. So, I guess it'll be experience. Gen Zers are still young. So as they grow, they'll grow in confidence and they'll grow in self-expression and they'll grow to not care too much about saying the right thing all the time.
But don't you think, I think sometimes Gen Zers are more of those people who actually say a lot without thinking about what others are going to think?
I would have thought that they're worried about what others are going to think because everything is always on social media. You have to think before you say things. And you say things that affect other people negatively sometimes, and you don't realize how much it's affecting them negatively. So I think some people should really think before they say things, because a lot of people are listening and being influenced by what's out there, which is why, although I'm all for obviously freedom of speech, but, sometimes you hear things, you see things, and you're like, not everything should be out there. From the perspective of someone who's my age, from my generation, you're like, not everyone should be heard.
We've been talking about body language for quite a bit now. And, there are times you get into a conflict with someone, right? What kind of body language should you have at that particular time?
Well, I think, it depends if you're feeling you're on the offense or the defense. So if you feel you need to defend yourself, you want to do all the things we talked about in terms of standing up tall, like you're not intimidating me, staying open to the person. I can take this and I can dish it back and, not cowering, not looking away, keeping the eye contact. That's very important. Eye contact is such a show of strength. And that's one of the giveaways, again, when you meet people who are talking to you but not keeping the eye contact. And that's an exercise I do with my participants as well. Because there's like whoever has more eye contact is almost like commanding the presence or has the power, because they're keeping the eye contact. I'm not looking away. You're not intimidating me. I'm not looking away. Now, if you feel that this person is saying something that is offending you or you're against it, but you don't want to show it, that's where you have to pay attention that you don't go into a defensive mode, like I'm not happy with what you're saying, or, you start to look like you're about to hit them or throw something at them, and where you have to appear calm, and not betray anything with your hands, like you're making a fist or you're getting, angry, or like kind of tapping your leg or something like that betrays that you are getting phased by them, so that, I'm calm, I'm collected, I'm going to answer you, I'm listening to you. So you kind of want to act a bit that you are not offended by what they're saying, so that you remain calm in answering them.
How good is it to sometimes tell someone when you're offended, okay, I'm sorry, I did not like this. Can you change the question, for example?
I think it's absolutely fine to tell someone, but I think there's a bit of a trick. If you can start with something positive before going to the negative, people are more likely to listen to you.
Okay.
So if you say, I understand where you're coming from. I liked what you said about XYZ, but I disagree when it comes to this point.
Okay.
Because if you start immediately with the negative, you're putting them on the offensive, like, they didn't like what I said, or they're going to attack me now. But if you kind of like calm them a bit by starting with something positive.
So it's not great to actually, becoming too blunt in a conversation. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. And it depends on what your objective is. If you're trying to persuade someone of something, and if you reject everything they tell you, they're not going to listen to what you're saying.
Okay.
If you want them to listen to your point of view, you have to at least appear to be accepting some of what they're saying to you.
Related to what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
What are the 3 phrases that someone can room to change that power shift, to change the situation around?
Okay, so if things are getting heated up, you mean? Okay, so you might say, I respect or I appreciate. Let's say you don't want to say respect because you don't respect their point of view. Like, I appreciate your point of view. I appreciate that people might have different stances on this, but respectfully, I disagree. I see it a bit differently. And then you could go on to say what you want to say.
I'm learning so much from you.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Because honestly, when it comes to persuasion, if you start with, telling someone, okay, you're stupid and you don't know what you're talking about, why should they listen to you?
Absolutely.
So you have to start by saying, all right, there are different points of view on this. I feel a bit differently than yours. Or you might even lie and say, oh, I learned a lot from you today.
Which is exactly what I did right now.
Yeah. Oh,
no, I
really?
was not kidding.
Faizan.
I was not
So you might say that, and so now you're in their good graces. They're happy. They're open to listening to you. And you say, but there's one point you said that I disagree on.
Okay.
Rather than say, I reject and disagree everything you've said. And then you're like, okay, then I'm going to reject and disagree with everything you say.
Yeah.
It becomes like a ping pong match.
Absolutely. Let's talk about voice modulation, how important it is and how can you improve it and work upon it?
It's very important because if you don't change the modulation and you're monotonous, you're going to really bore the audience. I mean, if you're talking like this all the time, you're going to put people to sleep. And another thing that sometimes people don't realize is catching themselves not repeating the same modulation.
Oh, that's very difficult.
So some people, will always speak like this. Like the end of the sentence is always going up,
right.
Or it always sounds like a question, even when it's not a question.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And that can become very annoying. And again, people don't realize they're doing that. So recording themselves, listening to themselves can be very helpful. Yeah.
Again, I want to interject here because this reminded me of the young people growing up in America. That is how they've started speaking now. I don't know whether it has to do something with social media or not.
Yeah.
But that is how they speak now.
Yeah.
I am trying to do something.
Yes.
Yes. That's how they do it. And it irritates me personally.
Yes.
What do you have to say to that if someone's talking like that?
Well, I mean, it is irritating. Of course, you're not going to tell them to your face. If they're in my class, I'm going to point it out, gently and give them exercises they can do so that they get themselves out of that pattern. And the simplest thing is if you're reading off of a piece of paper, which you only do if you're doing like, radio voices or something, or a big speech, to put pointers for yourself, arrows and things to remind yourself, sometimes I want to go up, sometimes I want to go down, sometimes I want to be on the same level. And one exercise I do with people who might be a bit monotonous is to tell them to pretend they're reading a bedtime story. So I give them something to read as if to a child, because whenever we're pretending to read for a child or, actually reading to a child, we really use all the range of our voice that we forget to use all the time. We go really high, we go really low, we go whispery, we go dramatic. So it's nice to remember these parts of our voice that we're not always using.
And that is so true. Once upon a time, there was a Lion King.
Exactly.
You go like that, right?
Exactly.
Amazing. And I think that also helps with your confidence, doesn't it? If you have a nice voice modulation, you know that people are listening to you, that boosts your confidence.
Absolutely.
Do you think that your role as a public speaker, coach, is in danger because of AI?
I certainly hope not. I don't think so. I think some elements, yes, might be replicated by AI. But one of the things that I really enjoy when I'm teaching public speaking, especially when it's one-on-one, a lot of it is psychology. A lot of it is about just boosting that person's confidence. And I don't see an AI bot being able to do that, because you pick up on visual cues, you pick up on quivers in the voice or things that people say, and it makes you get into that person's mindset, and then you say things to help them. And honestly, a lot of the time, it's just about they're lacking in a bit of confidence, and all they need is someone to tell them, you're doing fine, you're good, that was a great question. So I don't think so.
Maybe those sort of things can actually be fed into an AI system, and maybe they become as sympathetic as a human being. What do you think about that?
Perhaps. But I'm one of those people who think that, we all tend to reject things that come and change and disrupt our life. And I'm very much one of those people who does not like too much change. But, with experience, with years, I've learned that rejecting things immediately is not a clever thing to do, because the better thing to do is to realize, what can I get out of this? There's often something good you can take out of something. So, perhaps AI will serve us in ways that we don't think about in medicine or in certain concepts or in certain fields of life, where it will really make things easier for us and we can concentrate on things that are more important. But I don't think the human element is going to go away. I'm not one of those doomsday people who think that we're going to be replaced.
Okay, so you're old school like me.
Very much so.
I hope that doesn't happen ever, by the way. Moving on, the next segment. Okay, so this is called This or That.
Okay.
Pick one. Okay. Posture or voice? What changes the room faster?
Posture.
Okay, the way you're sitting, the way you're standing.
Well, only because of body language is so important. But if it has to do with like gaining back the attention of the room, then I would say voice, because by suddenly going louder or clapping your hands or doing something like that, you bring the energy back. So I want to change my answer. I would say voice.
Okay.
Okay.
That's nice. Steady eye contact or a great smile?
Ooh, interesting.
Yes, isn't it?
I'm going to say a great smile, because it keeps the audience coming back and looking at you, even if you waver with your eye contact a bit. Although eye contact is very, very important.
So eye contact with a great smile, maybe.
Well, ideally, yes, because two is stronger than one.
All right. Authentic message or a powerful delivery? What is more important?
Authentic message, for sure. Because as I mentioned to you a bit earlier, even if you are not very powerful in your delivery and you don't have all the elements you need, but if you are passionate and sincere, that will always win.
This is the third time you've mentioned passion. So I'm going to ask you the next one. Emotion, which comes from passion, right? Or vice versa. Emotion or logic? What truly moves a room?
Emotion. I mean, when you're trying to persuade, and this goes back to the Greeks with Aristotle, you should address the logic, the logos, but you also address the emotion. So you need both. But I would say emotion is very important. Because that's how you reach people, that's how you touch people.
So what is that one mic drop moment in your life when you thought, oh, I have arrived. I have achieved everything that I wanted to.
What was a moment that was so special in my life? And that would have been when I gave birth to my third child, because I knew I wanted three.
Okay.
So I thought, this is it. I've done it. He's healthy. He has arrived. And, as a mother, which is one of the roles that is dearest and most important to me, like I love being a mom more than anything else in the world. So as a mom, that was like, yes, I've done it. I've had my three children. They're healthy. Thank you, God. That's it.
Wow, that's really, really sweet. Thank you so much, Sumaya, for your time.
Thank you.